Good morning, all. Today's videos class, we are going to discuss regarding series inverter and parallel inverter. So, very important topics as far as your examinations is concerned. Series inverter and parallel inverter. These important topics we will discuss in today's class. In the previous class, we have started our chapter 3. In that, we have started our discussion with inverters. Inverter is a device which will convert fixed DC input into variable AC output. That variation is with respect to magnitude of voltage and frequency. And we have seen the main difference between UPS and inverter. So almost these two devices will function in the same manner, but UPS is having more advantages compared to inverter, mainly in the aspect of switching speed. Switching speed of UPS is very high, and it will be in 10 milliseconds, around 10 milliseconds, and the switching speed of inverter is around 100 to 200 milliseconds. And we will generally use whenever the sensitivity of electronic operators is more, then we are going for UPS, and for domestic loads like lights, fans, for that load we are going for inverters. And we have discussed the classification of inverters. Inverter classification on various aspects we have discussed in detail. Mainly based on source, inverters are classified as voltage source inverter and current source inverter. Based on the connection of semiconductor devices, they are classified as bridge inverter, series inverter, parallel inverter. So today we will focus on this connection. Based on connection, we will discuss these inverters, series inverter and a parallel inverter. And these inverters are again classified as based on number of phases, single phase inverters and three phase inverters. Based on the commutation method adopted, these are classified as load commutation inverters, forced commutation inverters. Based on the circuit configuration, these are classified as half bridge inverter and full bridge inverter. Based on the nature of output voltage, these are classified as output waveform, square wave inverter, quasi square wave inverter, and a sine wave inverter. And we have mainly focused on single phase inverters. And in that, in the last class, we have focused on single phase half bridge inverter and single phase full bridge inverter. As the source utilization factor is around 50% in single phase half bridge inverter, so we are going for single phase full bridge inverter generally in practical applications because it requires only single phase AC, single phase supply. We require only two plates for supply, two wires for supply. In half bridge inverter, we require three wired supply, three wired DC supply. So that is practically difficult. And the source utilization factor in single phase full bridge inverter is 100%. So almost double. So that's why we are using that full bridge inverter whenever we require square wave output. Okay. And generally we are using voltage source inverters in practical applications. Whenever we require specific current, constant current applications, we are going for current source. Okay. So we have discussed regarding this single phase inverters, half bridge and full bridge. Today's class we will focus on series inverter and parallel inverter. The circuit configuration, circuit operation, and the concerned waveforms of these two. we will see, and how we are converting that DC input into AC output. DC input into AC output. How that conversion process is taking place, we will observe in this. First of all, we will discuss series inverters. It is also called as load commutated inverter or self commutated inverter. So in this inverter, the load components, that is RLC, are chosen such that these are forming an underdamped circuit. The RLC circuits are forming an underdamped circuit. So this feature, load commutation feature, we are using in the series inverter for commutating the thyristors. Thyristors. So that is how we are designing the series inverter. In series inverter, the commutating components L and C are connected in series with the load. That's why it is called a series inverter. In the circuit diagram, we are going to see the commutating components L and C are connected in series with the load. The value of commutating components is selected such that the circuit becomes an underdamped one. The value of this L and C are chosen such that this RLC circuit will forming underdamped circuit. Underdamped circuit means the damping ratio will be in the form of in between 0 and 1. Between 0 and delta is in between 0 and 1. The anode current itself becomes 0 in this inverter, resulting the SCR turn off automatically. Therefore, the inverter is called a self-commutated or load-commutated inverter. So we are not doing any forced commutation techniques to reduce the anode current to 0, because the values of L and C and R are chosen such that itself it is forming an underdamped circuit. That's why it is called a self-commutated or load-commutated inverter. So this is the connection diagram for series inverter. So it will be consisting of two thyristors T1 and T2 and a DC source, T1 and T2, two thyristors and a DC source, and two components L and C, which are connected in series with the load. These commutating components L and C are connected in series with the load. Just now we have seen these L and C are connected in series with the load. That's why it is called a series inverter. It's called a series inverter. This is the thyristor T1. This is thyristor T2, and these are the commutating components C and L. These are connected permanently in series with the load R. And here we are connecting a DC supply source. Our intention is to convert this DC source into AC at the load end. At the load end, by using this circuitry, we need to convert this DC into AC at the load end. We are going to see how we are converting this DC into AC. Initially, we are turning on thyristor T1. So from now onwards, when we are discussing regarding thyristor, the thyristor circuit will consisting of a latching circuit and commutating circuit, turning on circuit and turning off circuit along with this symbol. So we are not showing those turning on circuit and turning off circuit, but whenever it is there inside to this component, that circuits are available, turning on circuit and turning off circuit. So initially we are turning on thyristor T1 by providing gate pulse. So whenever we are turning on thyristor T1, this supply will drive current through capacitor C, inductor L, and resistance R, and the current will flow in this closed path. It will not flow through thyristor T2 because T2 in off condition. T2 in off condition. Initially T1 and T2 are off. We are triggering T1. As we are triggering T1, current flows from source to thyristor T1 and is commutating components L and C through load, and current will flow in this closure path. So the current direction will be shown in figure B when the thyristor T1 is turned on. T2 will be in off position. Current will flow from battery DC source positive terminal. Thyristor T1, it is acting like a short circuit. By neglecting on-state voltage drop, it is acting like a on switch, and the capacitor charges with this polarity. So and through inductor and load. So in this closure path, the current will flow. When the current is flowing in this closure path, the current which is flowing through the load will slowly increase and it will reach its maximum value, and at instant A it will reach to 0 due to RLC components. RLC components, these are chosen such that they are forming an underdamped circuit. So in underdamped circuit, we are getting current waveform like this at 0 automatically at point A. At point A, automatically the current flowing through thyristor T1 will become 0. So during the portion 0 to A, during on period of thyristor T1, the capacitor C charges to 2 VDC, 2 VDC, and the load voltage will be changing from plus VL to minus VL, plus VDC to minus VDC. Whenever the capacitor is charging, it will be having the voltage, as it is a energy storing device. It will store the energy in the form of electrostatic field. Electrostatic field. Okay. So from instant A to B, we need to give some amount of time for turning off of thyristor T1. A minimum time must pass for T1 to regain its forward plugging capability. So this is the minimum time for proper commutation of thyristor T1. When T1 is turned off, when T1 is turned off, we are triggering thyristor T2 at instant B. At instant B, we are giving trigger pulse to thyristor T2. Thyristor T2 will be given a trigger pulse, already T1 in off position. So this is the equivalent circuit when T1 is off and T2 is on. When T2 is on, the energy which is available across capacitor will drive current through load in this direction. So the current will flow from capacitor, thyristor T2, and the load resistance, and through inductor again back to capacitor. So in this way, the capacitor energy will drive current through thyristor T2 and load resistance R, inductor and capacitor. So in this direction, the current will flow. When the current is flowing in this direction, the energy across capacitor will decrease and the load will have voltage drop. Because of this capacitor energy, if we observe current flowing through the load will be in reverse direction. Due to this DC source, when we are turned on T1, current will be flowing from top to bottom. If you observe, current direction is from top to bottom. Because of this capacitor energy, current is flowing in reverse direction. So current from B to C, if we observe, current will increase in the reverse direction. It attains its peak value. Again, it reaches to zero. So during this period, again the voltage across capacitor will decrease because it is releasing the energy, and because of this inductor commutating components, it will be further discharged up to minus VDC, because inductor doesn't allow sudden change in current. It will allow us to drive current as T2 is turned on. T2 is turned on up to C. The voltage across inductor will reaches up to minus VDC, and at this point again current reaches 0, and the voltage across capacitor will reach minus VDC, and the load voltage will change from minus VDC to plus VDC. So these are the waveforms. So if we observe, when we are turning on thyristor T1, we are getting positive half cycle. Due to turning on of thyristor T2, with the available energy of capacitor, we are getting negative half cycle. Negative half cycle. And we have to take one precaution such that we should not turn on thyristor T1 and T2 simultaneously. So which will cause short circuit across the load. Short circuit across the load. So we should not turn on T1 and T2 simultaneously. We should wait for a minimum time. So this is the only drawback. And we have to wait for a minimum time for T1 to regain its forward blocking capability. That is for turn off proper turn off of the SCR. We are going to see the circuit operation in detail. So this is the power circuit diagram of series inverter. It will be consisting of SCR T1 and SCR T2 are turned on at regular intervals in order to achieve desirable output voltage and frequency. Desirable output voltage and frequency. The SCR T2 is kept off at starting condition, and the polarity of output voltage across capacitor is shown in figure A. So initially the polarity will be like this and T2 is turned off, and T1 and T2 will be turned on according to the requirement for getting proper output voltage and proper frequency. And operation in mode 1 the voltage VDC directly applies to RLC series circuit as soon as thyristor T1 is turned on. As soon as thyristor T1 is turned on, as soon as T1 is turned on, the voltage VDC is applied across RLC circuit, and the polarity of capacitor changing shown in figure B, and capacitor will be charging with this polarity. The nature of load current is alternating, as there is an underdamped circuit of the commutating components. And here the load current is alternating one, because we are choosing RLC such that it is forming an underdamped circuit. So during this mode 1, thyristor T1 is turned on and the current is flowing from this battery to load through L and C components. So this is the direction of current, and capacitor will be charging. The voltage across capacitor becomes plus VDC, and then the load current becomes maximum. The voltage across capacitor becomes plus 2 VDC and the load current becomes 0 at point A. We have already seen this one. Whenever the capacitor attains maximum voltage and the load current reaches to 0, the SCR T1 is automatically turned off at point A because the load current becomes 0. Because load current becomes 0, the SCR will automatically turn off. Mode 2. The load current becomes 0 from point A to B as SCR T1 turns off in this time period. In this time period, SCR T1 should be turned off. Should be turned off. And SCR T1 and SCR T2 are turn off in this time duration, and the voltage across capacitor becomes equal to plus 2 VDC. Plus 2 VDC. So this is the time interval. Mode 2 is the time interval for proper turn off of SCR. So when the SCR1, T1 and T2 are turned off, during mode 2, the voltage across capacitor will reaches to plus 2 VDC. Plus 2 VDC. And in mode 3, SCR T2 is turned on. SCR T2 is turned on at point B. At point B, due to it receives positive capacitor voltage. In a load current waveform, at point B, the thyristor T2 is turned on due to it receives positive capacitor voltage. Positive capacitor voltage. The discharging of capacitor is done through thyristor T2 and the load resistance R and inductance L circuit. So as shown in this figure, whenever the capacitor is charged, after giving proper time to turn off of thyristor T1, the thyristor T2 is switched on. So gate pulse is applied to thyristor T2. Thyristor T2 will be in conduction. When it is conducting, it is acting like a on switch. The energy across capacitor will drive current through thyristor T2. Load resistance R, inductor and capacitor. So as shown in this way, the current will flow. The discharging of capacitor is done through thyristor T2 and R and L circuit as shown in this figure. The load current becomes zero after it becomes maximum in the negative direction. So if you observe the current, load current direction, so when T2 is in on, load current will increases up to negative maximum and it will become zero, zero. From point B to C, we are getting negative half cycle in the load current waveform. The load current. The capacitor discharges from during this mode, during negative half cycle of current, the capacitor is discharging from plus 2 VDC to minus VDC. During this time, the SCR T2 turns off automatically at point C due to load current becomes zero. Due to load current becomes zero. So when the current becomes zero due to natural commutation, the thyristor T2 will become turn off. Actually, here we are not using natural commutation. We are commutating the thyristor due to load components. Load components. That's why it is called load commutation. Due to load commutation phenomena, the thyristor T2 will turn off. The thyristor T2 turn off during point C to D and SCR T1 again turns on. SCR T1 again turns on. This way the cycle repeat after it completes one turns. Okay. The positive AC output voltage half cycle generates due to DC voltage source, whereas the negative half cycle generates due to capacitor. So in load current waveform, this positive half cycle is due to main source VDC and the negative half cycle due to thyristor T2. So this is conducting due to available energy across the capacitor. Capacitor will responsible for this negative half cycle and this positive voltage source will be the cause for positive half cycle. Positive half cycle will be due to DC voltage source and the negative half cycle will be due to capacitor energy. There is always some time delay kept between one SCR turned on time and the other SCR turned on time. The output DC output gets short circuited due to continuous conduction of both SCRs. There is no time delay between the SCRs. So we have to take precautions such that we have to allow some time delay between turn on of each SCR. The time duration AB and CD must be greater than SCR specific turn off time, and it is called a dead zone. Actually, in this load current waveform, we should not, it is not desirable that period AB and CD, because it is causing discontinuous conduction. But we are allowing that minimum period to regain the forward blocking capability, forward blocking for the thyristors T1 and T2 to regain their forward blocking capability. So the time we are calling it as dead zone. The limitations of series inverters are: the load current flows only during positive half cycle from supply source. The DC supply source gets short circuited if SCR T1 and SCR T2 simultaneously turn on. The rating of commutating components should high because the load current flows through it. We have to choose the proper rating of L and C, as we are using load commutation technique in the series inverter, and we have to choose this T1 and T2, and we need to operate T1 and T2 such that they should not make a short circuit across the load. The load current flows only during positive half cycle from the supply source. So the negative half cycle we are getting due to energy available across the capacitor. The load voltage waveform gets distorted if the dead zone time of SCR, the if the dead zone time or SCR turn on time high. Actually, if this dead zone time we have to maintain properly. If it is increases, the load voltage waveform changes. It will be distorted. It is not pure sine wave. The maximum output frequency of inverter should be less than ringing frequency. The DC supply source is short circuited if the output frequency of inverter is higher than ringing frequency. The maximum current during each half cycle and its time duration depends upon the parameters of the load. This will result in poor regulation and inverter output. Pure regulation of the inverter output. And the applications of these series inverters are: this type of inverters generally generates sinusoidal waveform whose output frequency in the range of 200 Hz to 100 kHz. Therefore, it is applicable for induction heating, sonar transmission, fluorescent tube lighting, ultrasonic generators. Actually, these are generating sinusoidal waveform and the frequency will be very high. So whenever we require high frequency operation, there we are using the series inverter. Mainly it will be like induction heating, sonar transmitter, fluorescent lighting, and ultrasonic generators. Next, we will discuss parallel inverter. So this is the circuit for parallel inverter. It will be consisting of a center type of transformer. In the secondary of this secondary center type of transformer, we are connecting load, and the primary, each primary half will be having same voltage as like secondary voltage. That's why it is a center type transformer. And in this we are using two thyristors T1 and T2, and here the commutating component capacitor will be connected in parallel with the load through center tapped transformer. That's why we are calling it as parallel inverter. Parallel inverter. This capacitor will be connected in parallel with the load. Capacitor is connected across the load through center tapped transformer. That's why it is called a parallel inverter. And we are having an inductor and this DC source. The function of this DC source is to supply the DC energy, and the function of this inductor is to make the source current constant. Source current constant. So this current will be maintained constant because of the inductor. The power circuit diagram of the single phase parallel inverter is shown in this figure. The commutating capacitor C is connected across the supply source, therefore it is called a parallel inverter. The turns ratio of primary winding and secondary winding is kept unity. The SCR T1 and T2 are main SCRs from which load current passes through it. So these are the two main SCRs. So when we are turning on, the load current will pass through the SCRs. This is the circuit operation in mode 1. So in mode 1 we are turning on thyristor T1. So when we are turning on thyristor T1, the current will be flowing from battery through inductor, and it will be flowing from primary half of the primary winding, and to thyristor T1 it will be going again back to DC source. So when the current is flowing through thyristor T1, the primary half, first half of this transformer will be charged to VDC, and the primary voltage, this VDC and VDC will be appeared across capacitor, and capacitor will charges with this polarity. Okay, so this voltage will be appeared across the capacitor, and it will be charges up to 2 VDC, and the thyristor T2 already in reverse bias. So the load current flows through path plus VDC, and inductor again it will be going through transformer, tapping center point to A point SCR-T1, and it will be going again back to VDC when SCR-T1 turns on. This will generate flux and resulting an EMF in the transformer primary winding AC and BC. So this voltage will be appeared across primary of both the halves of the primary winding. So this voltage, transformer voltage, will be appeared across the capacitor. As capacitor is in parallel, the charging of capacitor is done up to 2 VDC voltage due to these EMFs. The polarity of capacitor is shown in this figure. So with this polarity, the capacitor charges in mode 1. The maximum voltage withstanding capability of SCR-T2 is 2 VDC. 2 VDC. So we have to choose the SCR-T2 such that the withstanding capability is up to 2 VDC. The induced EMF in the transformer secondary is 2 VDC, as there is unity turns ratio between primary half primary and secondary winding. Half primary winding and secondary winding turns ratio should be equal, unity, so that the voltage across the capacitor will be charges up to 2 VDC. So this will result flow of current through the load. So when we have applied the energy DC source across this transformer through thyristor T1, capacitor charges, and because of this transformer secondary, the load current will be flowing. In mode 2, the thyristor T2 is turned on and thyristor T1 is turned off. The thyristor T1 will automatically turn off due to capacitor reverse voltage applied across it. So when we are turning on thyristor T2, so there will be a closed path for this capacitor energy, and it will automatically turn off thyristor T1. As thyristor T2 is turned on, the load current flows through VDC L point transformer, center type of transformer point C, B, and thyristor T2, and it is going to VDC. And discharging of capacitor is done to SCR T2. The charging of capacitor is again with minus 2 VDC to minus 2 VDC voltage. The current flows during this interval are in reverse as the SCR T1 is turned on. SCR T1 again turned on when it receives gate pulse, and SCR T2 is off during this interval. The waveform of output voltage becomes rectangle due to alternating switching of thyristor T1 and T2. So these are the waveforms. So initially when we turning on thyristor T1, when we are turning on thyristor T1, the capacitor will charge up to plus 2 VDC and it will be maintained constant. So when we are turning on thyristor T1, capacitor voltage will be increases to plus 2 VDC, and the thyristor T1 will acting like a on switch. So voltage across T1 will be almost zero, almost zero, and the capacitor will charge, and it will charge up to plus 2 VDC. Then capacitor charge will current will almost zero, and the load current will flow in this minus IL current will flows through the load. When we are turning on thyristor T2, the capacitor voltage will be appeared as a reverse across thyristor T2, and thyristor when we are turning on thyristor T2, the capacitor voltage, this 2 VDC will be appearing as a reverse pass across thyristor T1. So T1 will turn off, thyristor T1 will turn off, it will turn off, and T2 will be in conduction. T2 will be in conduction, and capacitor will charges from plus 2 VDC to minus 2 VDC. So capacitor will charge, and when it is reaching 2 VDC, it will become 0, and the voltage across thyristor T1 will be in the reverse direction, and when the capacitor charges, that voltage will be appeared in the reverse direction. So when the capacitor charges, that voltage will be appeared across thyristor T1 in the reverse direction, reverse direction, and the load current will flow through the transformer, through the secondary of the transformer. So if we observe, the load current is like this. It is a square wave AC alternating one. Across the load we are getting an alternating voltage. This is how the parallel inverter will be operating. And coming to the advantages of this parallel inverter are simple forced commutation circuit. A sinusoidal waveform at output is possible by using suitable filter circuit. So there we are getting a square wave. So we have to send this output waveform to a filter circuit. Then we are getting a pure sinusoidal waveform. And the disadvantage of this parallel inverter are parallel inverter is useful only when the load is fixed. The output waveform changes due to change in the load. The inverter does not useful for high power for fixed value of inductor and capacitor. The design of inverter is done for fixed voltage. So this is the parallel inverter circuit. So when T1 is turned on, the current is flowing through this path. When the current is flowing through this path, the capacitor will charges to 2 VDC. So in this polarity, the capacitor will charge, and the load current will flows whenever we are having voltage across the primary. So load current will be flowing. When we are turning on thyristor T2, so this plus will be appeared across thyristor internal. This minus will be appeared across thyristor P terminal. So automatically the thyristor T1 will be subjected to reverse bias, and the load current will flow from this source VDC and through inductor from point C of the center type transformer through thyristor T2, and it will come through this DC source, and accordingly the capacitor will charge with opposite polarity, and if you see the current direction is reverse. Now in the earlier case current is going from bottom to top, now current is coming from top to bottom. So with this polarity the capacitor will charge. On the upper plate we will get positive polarity, on the bottom plate we will get the negative polarity when T2 is in conduction. T2 is in conduction. So like this due to T1 we are getting one positive half cycle, due to conduction of T2 we are getting negative half cycle. So we have to properly turn on T1 and T2 to get the proper output voltage, output currents across the load. So this is how we need to operate the parallel inverter, and these are the waveforms. So these are the gate currents for thyristor T1 and T2. This is the voltage across the capacitor, and when it is charging the current will be increasing and it will be maintained constant. The capacitor is fully charged, and these are the load current. The last one is load current. So we are getting almost square wave output, but most of the loads are sinusoidal waveform. Sinusoidal, we require sinusoidal AC as the input for most of the loads. So that's why we need to send this load current and voltages to a filter circuit. So this filter will convert this square wave into sinusoidal waveform. Square wave into sinusoidal waveform. So in this class, we have mainly discussed regarding the operation of series inverter into series inverter and parallel inverter. And the series inverter is mainly used in induction heating and fluorescent heating, which will require higher frequencies. Mainly in the series inverter, the commutating components L and C are permanently connected in series with the load. That's why it is called a series inverter. In parallel inverter, the capacitor is used for commutation is in parallel. So that's why it is called a parallel inverter. During the working of the parallel inverter, capacitor C comes in parallel with the load via transformer. So therefore it is called as parallel inverter. Parallel inverter. So this is a small quiz. We will attempt a small quiz on this inverters topic. Inverter is a device which converts option A AC supply to DC supply, option B DC supply to AC supply, option C fixed DC to variable DC, option D fixed AC to variable AC. So inverter will convert a DC supply into AC supply. So option B. Single phase full bridge inverter can operate in load commutation mode in case the load consists of RL, RLC underdamped, RLC critically RLC overdamped, RLC critically damped. Actually, load commutation means the current has to become zero. For that, we need to design RLC circuit with underdamped. In this case, the reading current will flow in the circuit and it will become zero. So the thyristor will be commutated. So that's why we are choosing RLC underdamped. The line commutated inverters have AC on supply side, DC on load side. AC on both supply and load side. DC on both supply and load side. DC on supply side and AC on load side. Line commutated inverters will require AC on both load and supply side. So answer is B. The line commutated inverters are actually phase controlled converters operated in inverting mode. They cannot act as a standalone inverters as they requires AC supply. It is to be noted that line commutated inverters is not the conventional inverter. The conventional inverters are forced or load commutated inverters. Dash based inverters do not require self commutation. Do not require self commutation. So SCR based will require commutation. So option D, IGBT, GTO, P MOSFET, SCR. All the devices can be turned off by their own gate pulses except SCR. SCR will require external commutation circuit. So this is the small quiz we have attempted on inverters. In the next class, we will discuss three-phase inverters. And we will discuss pulse width modulated inverters. So these two topics will left over in inverters that we will discuss in the next class. If you have any questions, you can ask or you can put the questions in comment box so that we will discuss in the next video lesson. Thank you all of you for your patient listening. Thank you all of you.